Okay, so have you ever heard of a chiropractor, like specializing in video game injuries?
It really is amazing how specialized this whole field is becoming. It's not just your typical car accident or like workplace injuries anymore.
Wow. It really does make you think, like everyone's always on their phones and computers, and then we're all surprised when our necks and backs hurt. But wait, so are you saying video game injuries are actually a real thing?
Think about it, all that repetitive strain, bad posture, and even the strain on your eyes. It makes sense that chiropractors are like starting to focus on these tech-related problems. And let me tell you, the demand is only going to increase.
Wow, that's kind of wild. So today we're diving into the world of these specialist chiropractors. You sent over a ton of info on this article's career guides, and it seems like it's way more than just cracking backs these days.
Oh, absolutely. The thing that really stood out to me from all this material is just how many different specializations there are now. I mean, we're talking about everything from pediatrics to sports medicine to like neurology and even acupuncture and like this whole holistic wellness thing.
So it's definitely not just about back pain anymore. So what's causing this whole trend toward specialization in chiropractic?
It's a bunch of things, really. For one, the whole healthcare scene is changing. More and more people are looking for alternative treatments and therapies, and chiropractic care fits into that perfectly. Plus, like, as we understand the human body better, it just makes sense that healthcare would become more specialized, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like anything, the more we learn, the more specialized everything gets.
Yeah.
But going back to those specializations for a sec, I'm still stuck on that video game injury thing. What other, like, unexpected niches are chiropractors going into these days?
Well, you already mentioned pediatrics, which is completely different when it comes to adjusting techniques. I mean, you're dealing with a kid's spine that's still growing, and then you've got functional neurology, which is fascinating. They're looking at the connection between your nervous system and your spine, things like migraines, vertigo, even like cognitive issues.
Functional neurology.
Mhm.
Wow, I never knew any of this stuff existed. It really shows how much chiropractic has grown beyond the traditional adjustments and stuff.
It really has. And you know what? The Bureau of Labor Statistics actually projects that jobs for chiropractors will grow by 7% from 2018 to 2028. That's way higher than the average for other jobs.
7%. Wow.
Yeah.
So anyone out there thinking about a career change, maybe chiropractor is the way to go. But realistically, what does it actually take to become a specialist? Like, it's got to be more than just a quick weekend course, right?
Oh, yeah, you're definitely right about that. It takes serious dedication. From what I read, most specialists get their Doctor of Chiropractic degree, which, like any doctorate, takes years of hard work and studying. Then they do even more training to specialize in their specific niche.
Okay, so we're talking anatomy, physiology, all the hard stuff. But what about like the actual hands-on part? That's got to be a huge part of learning to be a chiropractor.
Oh, absolutely. These programs aren't just about books. They involve a ton of hands-on experience in real clinics. They're working with actual patients, but of course under the supervision of experienced chiropractors. Kind of like a medical residency, but for chiropractic.
So they're getting real-world practice right from the start.
Right.
Makes sense. I wouldn't want someone who's just read about adjustments, cracking my back.
Mm.
But it's really interesting, this whole idea of transferable skills.
Mm.
Like, could someone with a background in, say, massage therapy actually become a chiropractor?
That's a really good question, and actually some of the material you sent over mentioned that. So yeah, you do need the chiropractic degree as a base, but a lot of the skills needed you can get from other fields. Think like critical thinking, good communication, problem solving. Those are valuable skills in a ton of jobs.
So even if you're not coming from a healthcare background, you might already have some of the skills you need. That's pretty cool.
Exactly. If you think about someone with experience in massage therapy, they already have such a good understanding of anatomy and all that hands-on experience that would be super valuable in chiropractic.
It's like they've already got a head start, even if they're coming from totally different backgrounds.
Yeah, and it just shows you how much healthcare is changing. Like, it's not just about memorizing a bunch of stuff anymore. It's about actually, connecting with your patients, figuring out what they need, and finding ways to help them that actually work.
Totally. It's a whole new world out there. And speaking of new, one thing that really surprised me in all this research was how much technology is being used now. Like, I always thought of chiropractors as being super hands-on,
Uh-huh.
feeling your back for problems and all that. But it seems like technology is becoming a much bigger deal.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Hands-on adjustments are still like the core of what they do, But technology is totally changing how those adjustments are done and opening up all kinds of new ways to diagnose and treat problems.
Okay, so tell me more. What kind of technology are we even talking about here?
Well, lots of specialist chiropractors are using digital x-rays now, so way less radiation for patients compared to those old x-ray machines. And the cool thing is, those digital images, they can be stored easily, shared with other doctors, even looked at really closely on a computer, which means, more accurate diagnoses.
So it's not just a quick snapshot anymore. It's like they're really analyzing everything. What about treatments? Has technology changed that part too?
Definitely. One thing we read about is something called instrument-assisted adjusting. Basically, they use this handheld tool to make really precise and gentle adjustments on the spine.
Whoa, a handheld tool. Okay, that sounds pretty high tech. Yeah. What's the benefit of using that over just, their hands?
Well, it can be super helpful for people who are kind of sensitive to the feeling of a manual adjustment. The
Yeah.
instrument just makes it a lot more controlled and gentle, which can be more comfortable for some patients.
Makes sense. But what about those really deep, stubborn knots? Can these instruments help with those too?
That's actually where another super interesting technology comes in, shockwave therapy. Have you heard of that?
Shockwave therapy. Okay, yeah, that one sounds intense. What's that all about?
So basically, shockwave therapy uses these high energy sound waves to target like specific areas where you have pain and inflammation, like those muscle knots that never seem to go away. It can even help with things like plantar fasciitis and tennis elbow.
So they're basically breaking up those knots with sound waves. That's incredible.
Yeah.
But, like, does it really work?
There's more and more research coming out that says shockwave therapy can be really helpful for a whole bunch of conditions. Like you
Hmm.
said, plantar fasciitis, tennis elbow, even chronic neck pain, which is pretty amazing. It's definitely an area where we're seeing some really cool progress.
Yeah, that's amazing. It seems like technology is really changing what's possible with chiropractic. But with all these new gadgets and techniques, do you ever worry that the, personal touch might get lost?
That's a really good point. And actually, some of the articles we looked at even mentioned that. Like, technology can definitely make things better, but it shouldn't ever replace that connection between a chiropractor and their patient.
Yeah, you don't want to feel like you're just another number, right?
Yeah.
You want to feel like your chiropractor gets you, listens to you, and, is really trying to help you.
Right, exactly. That human connection is so important. And, empathy too, and that personalized care. You can't underestimate that.
For sure. It's like the technology is a tool, but it's the chiropractor's skills and experience and compassion that make the real difference.
100%. It's finding that balance between, high tech and that personal touch.
Totally. And speaking of skills, we talked earlier about communication, critical thinking, problem solving, all that. Those are important for any healthcare provider, but especially for these specialists who are dealing with such a huge range of patients and problems, right?
Absolutely. I mean, they have to be like detectives, really
Yeah.
listening to their patients, figuring out what questions to ask, putting all the pieces together to figure out what's going on.
That's like solving a puzzle, but the puzzle is the human body.
Yeah, exactly. And just like a good detective, they have to think critically, look at all the information, and then come up with a plan that's going to work for that specific patient.
So it's more than just like cracking bones. They're trying to figure out what's causing the problem in the first place.
Exactly. And that means they need a deep understanding of, well, everything like anatomy, physiology, biomechanics, all those complex systems that make us tick.
They're like mechanics for the human body.
Yes. But instead of wrenches and screwdrivers, they're using their knowledge, their experience, their intuition to make sure everything is working the way it should.
And let's not forget about emotional intelligence. That's a big one, right? They have to be able to connect with their patients, make them feel comfortable and understood, and explain complex stuff in a way that makes sense.
Totally. It all comes back to building that trust and understanding.
Absolutely. So we've talked a lot about the actual practice of chiropractic, but let's switch gears for a second and talk about the business side of things. I
Yeah.
mean, being a successful chiropractor, especially a specialist, isn't just about being good at what you do. It's also about, being a business person, right?
Oh, for sure. You're running a business, whether you're on your own or part of a bigger group, and that definitely requires a certain skill set.
So what are some of the business skills that chiropractors need to have these days?
Well, marketing is definitely a big one. They need to be able to let people know about their practice, get new patients, and stand out, especially with so many different types of healthcare providers out there.
Yeah, it's a tough market. So how are they marketing themselves these days?
A lot of them are using a mix of like traditional marketing and digital marketing,
Mm.
websites, social media, online ads, even blogging and making videos.
Wow, so they're getting pretty tech savvy. What about just like old-fashioned networking? Is that still important?
Oh, definitely. It's all about relationships, connecting with other healthcare providers, local businesses, people in the community. That's how you get referrals and build up a loyal patient base.
It's about making those connections, both online and in person. But like marketing and networking, that's just one part of it, right?
Yeah.
What about the whole money side of things? Managing a business can't be easy.
Yeah, that's where it can get a little tricky. Dealing with all the finances, insurance companies, billing, coding, it's a lot to handle, especially when you're also trying to be a great chiropractor and take care of your patients.
It sounds like it. So not only do they have to be great clinicians, they have to be marketing gurus and financial wizards too.
It's a lot to juggle, that's for sure.
Okay, so we've talked about all the good stuff, the benefits, the technology, the skills, but we have to talk about the other side of the coin, right? Are there risks involved with chiropractic care? What do patients need to know?
Well, like any healthcare profession, there are always some risks, but with chiropractic, they're generally considered to be pretty low.
Okay, so what kind of risks are we talking about? What should people be aware of?
Some people might feel a little sore or stiff after an adjustment, maybe even get a headache. It's usually nothing serious and goes away pretty quickly, but it's something to keep in mind.
So pretty mild side effects, but important to be aware of. Anything else?
In some really rare cases, there can be more serious problems like a stroke or nerve damage. But, I mean, these are extremely uncommon, and chiropractors are trained to look out for patients who might be at a higher risk for this kind of thing.
That's good to know. They can always refer patients to a different doctor if they need to. But even with those rare risks, it sounds like the benefits of specialist chiropractic care, especially with all the new technology, are pretty amazing.
I think so, but ultimately it's a personal choice. Patients should talk to their doctor, weigh the risks and benefits, and make the decision that feels right for them.
Definitely. And speaking of making informed decisions, let's talk about something else we found in the research professional organizations for chiropractors, like the American Chiropractic Association. Those seem to be really important.
Oh, they're super important. They're like the support system for the whole profession. They provide resources, continuing education, and just a sense of community for chiropractors.
And they're great for patients too, right? Like they could find a qualified chiropractor in their area, get info about chiropractic care, get questions answered.
Totally. They're like a bridge between chiropractors and the public.
Speaking of bridges, let's bridge over to another important topic, educating patients. It seems like specialist chiropractors are really emphasizing that now. It's not just about fixing the immediate problem. It's about giving patients the tools and knowledge to take care of themselves in the long run.
It's about moving away from just passively receiving care and becoming an active participant in your own health.
Yes, it's like they're health coaches.
Hmm.
They're giving their patients the info and the tools they need to make smart choices about their health.
Right. It's about teaching them about their condition, explaining their options, what the risks and benefits are, and showing them things they can do on their own to prevent problems down the road.
It's so empowering, giving people control over their own health journey.
It really is. And that can make a huge difference, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally, too.
So true. It's like they're giving people the keys to their own health. But there's one more thing I really want to touch on, something that really struck me after going through all this information. It's this whole lifestyle thing. I mean, everyone always says it, but seeing how important it is to these specialist chiropractors, it really makes you think. It's not just about the adjustment. It's about everything else you do. Right?
Yeah, it's that holistic view that people are really connecting with. They get that what they eat, how much they move, even how stressed they are. It all affects their spine and how they feel overall.
Totally. It's like, yeah, come get your back adjusted, but also let's chat about how you sleep, how your desk is set up, even what you're snacking on when you're stressed.
Right, it's all connected, and the research actually backs that up. Like, we know that when you're stressed out all the time, your muscles tense up, especially in your back and neck, which leads to pain. So a chiropractor might suggest things like mindfulness, breathing exercises, maybe even some yoga to help deal with that stress.
It's like taking care of your mind to help your body heal, that whole mind-body connection thing.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just relaxing. The research also talks a lot about how what you eat affects your spine.
Okay, yeah. So what are chiropractors saying about diet these days?
They're all about those anti-inflammatory foods. like fatty fish, leafy greens, berries, that kind of thing. These foods help reduce inflammation throughout your body, including your joints and muscles.
So you're saying I can eat my way to a healthier spine. Now that's something I can get behind. What about exercise? What kind of movement are they recommending?
It's not about becoming a gym rat necessarily. It's more about making sure you're moving throughout the day.
Okay, so like what? Give me some examples.
Simple things, really, like walking more, taking the stairs, even just standing up to stretch every hour if you're stuck at a desk all day.
Yeah, those little things add up over time, right?
Exactly. And then there are specific exercises you can do to make those muscles around your spine stronger, improve your posture, and avoid getting hurt. A good chiropractor will figure out what each patient needs and create an exercise plan just for them.
I love that personalized approach. It
Yeah.
really seems like specialist chiropractors are all about that whole person, well-rounded approach to health now, which is awesome.
Totally. They understand that real health isn't just about masking symptoms, it's about making everything work better as a whole.
Absolutely. And on that note, let's give shout out to the chiropractors themselves. It's got to be tough on their bodies to do what they do, right?
Right, for sure. It's physically demanding. They're on their feet all day, bending, twisting, using their hands to apply pressure. It can definitely take its toll over time.
So how do they stay healthy themselves?
Well, a lot of them really practice what they preach. They make sure they're exercising, eating healthy, managing their stress, and of course, getting adjusted themselves.
Right. They can't very well tell everyone else to take care of their spines if their own backs are a mess.
Exactly. But seriously, self-care is huge in this profession, both physically and mentally. It's about setting boundaries, managing their own stress, and not being afraid to ask for help when they need it.
It's like they say on airplanes. Put your own oxygen mask on first. You can't help anyone else if you're not taking care of yourself. But before we wrap up our deep dive on specialist chiropractors, I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier, that this field is always evolving. What's coming next? What are you most excited about for the future of chiropractic?
One thing that I think has huge potential is artificial intelligence, or AI. It could totally change how chiropractors work.
AI, like those chatbot things everyone's talking about.
Right.
But how would that even work with chiropractic, which is so hands-on?
Imagine software that uses AI to analyze a patient's posture, how well they move, even how they walk. The chiropractor could then use that information to make a diagnosis and figure out the best treatment.
Wow. So they basically have a super smart assistant right there in the room with them.
Exactly, and that's just the beginning. AI could be used to personalize those treatment plans even more, track how well patients are doing, even maybe predict if someone is likely to get injured.
That sounds like something out of a movie, but it's amazing to think it could actually happen.
It really is. It's a very exciting time to be in healthcare. But, no matter how fancy the technology gets, I think that human connection will always be the most important thing when it comes to great chiropractic care.
I completely agree. So to anyone listening who's now totally fascinated by these specialist chiropractors, whether it sparked your curiosity, got you thinking about a career change, or maybe you just want to take better care of yourself, what's the big takeaway here? What should people think about after today's deep dive?
If there's one thing I want everyone to remember, it's this. Take your spine seriously. It's not just about standing up straight. A healthy spine impacts everything. How you move, your mood, your overall health and well-being.
It's all connected. So well said. This has been a truly fascinating look at a profession that's changing and growing so rapidly. Thanks for joining us, everyone, and we'll catch you next time on The Deep Dive.